prose.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, over to the team looking after the cultural event. Jai Hind, thank you.
Hello. कबीरा गर्व न कीजिए, ऊंचा देख आवास, कल परों भून लेटना, ऊपर जमसी घास. A heartfelt welcome to all of you to Shabd, the word within. I am Shreyansh Mehta with my partner Aditya Singh. And as the Doha says, don't be so proud and vain, looking at your high mansion. Death makes one lie on bare land, and grass will grow thereon.
So, for all of those who are participating, leave your pride behind and get ready to relearn whatever you think you have learned and rethink whatever you think you know. We extend our heartiest welcome to all those who have joined us via Facebook Live, YouTube, and the participants in the Zoom room. We are elated to have you us here today.
As many of you may have guessed, Shabd, the word within, is meant to reignite Kabir's teachings among people and bring back his philosophy, one that we direly require in a very troubled world.
Over the 3 days that Shabd will span, we will have Seeking Begumpura, slam poetry, Mapping the Ulad Bansi, literary and entertainment quiz, Weaving the Weave, the molded clay, inter-schools English dramatics competition, and finally, the Bijak Diaries for multi-format English debate.
साधु ऐसा चाहिए जैसा सूप सुभाए, सार सार की गही रहे, थोथा दे उड़ाए.
One of Kabir's classic masterpieces. I want a good human being who is like the container we used to collect wheat. He leaves the wheat alone and throws the trash away.
And it is those good people that we in this event must be. We must take the philosophies of Kabir that help us today, but we must similarly leave those which don't.
Kabir spent his entire life teaching mankind, explaining to us the concept of God, telling us how to be good people. He spent his entire life trying to build humans into the light.
And now it is our time to take shelter under that very light of knowledge. I would like to call the board of directors, Mr. Pandab Mukherjee and Mr. Partho Banerjee, for the lighting of the lamp.
Thank you, everyone. Before we kick off the events for Shabd, we would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to all the schools that agreed to be a part of Shabd, making it a collective endeavor for all of us. For memory's sake, we would like to present an AV.
What a wonderful presentation. We would now like to take this opportunity to invite Mr. Sandeep Mukherjee, Chief Operating Officer of the Sunbeam Group, upon the stage for the vote of thanks. Please, sir.
A very good morning to one and all from Sunbeam Bhagwanpur. We are all set finally after weeks and months of deliberation and contemplation and planning and strategizing, rehearsal, practicing. Finally, we are all set to set the stage on fire. Shabda has come up with the idea of channelizing the energy of the youth, the power of the youth for expressions of their ideas. जब हम एक शिशु को देखते हैं जिन्हें अभी शब्द के बारे में नहीं पता होता है, तब उनके चेहरे पर जो एक्सप्रेशंस होते हैं वही उनकी भाषा होती है। धीरे धीरे वो शिशु जिस परिवेश में रहता है और उससे वो जो भी सीखता है वो शब्दों का रूप लेता है, और तब हम जानते हैं कि दिस इज व्हाट इज द एक्सप्रेशन ऑफ द आइडियाज, ऑफ द फीलिंग्स, of the knowledge, of the gyan, of the anger, of the rays, or whatever is the passion of that child or of that grown-up boy in the phase of learning. So we thought that let us provide a platform through dramatics, debate, and many other forms of literature so that kids can come up and can express their views on the contemporary issues that are prevailing around us. This is very important for this stage of children, especially after a huge gap of non-expressive 2 years of lockdown period. So we welcome all the participants of 32 schools representing 28 states and 2 union territories of India, as I have been informed. While I say that, registrations still go on. I also thank all the principals, all the management of all the schools to have participated, to have sent their kids to participate in this extravaganza of literature. I also extend thanks to Sunbeam Bhagwanpur management for hosting this event, and I wish all the best to all of them who are connected with us here in this auditorium and also connected with us virtually online. Wish you all the best. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir. To consume every morsel of the lavish meal of knowledge Kabir has left to mankind, we must first have a calm mind. We must first be happy. We must first be in the correct state to learn.
Over the course of history, the greatest stories, not only in our country, but the entire world, have been dependent on songs and poetry to convey their deepest emotions. For the same, I would like to invite the Sunbeam Bhagwanpur choir, Anhad, for a beautiful rendition. निर्भय निर्गुण निर्भय निर्गुण निर्भय निर्गुण गुण रे गाऊंगा गाऊंगा निर्भय निर्गुण
Thank you. That was truly amazing. Kabir was not just a human being, he was an idea, a river of thought made up of deeply embedded sentiments of quality and a flow of acceptance and freedom. We cannot contain his ideology or his persona in a speech, in a biography, or even an event spanning 3 whole days.
But it is imperative that we try, that all of us try and learn not only his teachings, but learn Kabir himself. We have read about Kabir in history books, and those books or our curriculum have taught us who Kabir was. But the goal of this event is to learn what he was. The goal of this event is to learn how to apply his philosophies on our daily life. And performing this Herculean task and helping us understand Kabir, we would like to invite Aditya Rai.
Good morning and Jai Hind. Between the poles of the conscious and the unconscious, there has the mind made a swing. Thereon hang all beings and all worlds, and that swing never ceases its sway. Millions of beings are there. The sun and the moon in their courses are there. Millions of ages pass, and the swing goes on. All swing, the sky and the earth and the air and the water, and the Lord himself taking form. And the sight of this has made Kabir a servant. The life of Kabir is an epitome of human virtue, and his teachings are relevant today even after 650 years. Kabir's life was an ideal example of communal solidarity. He took the initiative to remove the evils, ostentation, and discrimination, and also live the household life like a saint. Why look for me anywhere else, my friend, when I'm here in your possession? He is the very breath of our breaths. Kabir's revolt against the caste system also sought to do away with the complex rituals and ceremonies practiced by the society. He, along with his other prominent saints of his time, argued that it was only through bhakti, an intense love or devotion to God, could one attain salvation. In many of his verses, Kabir proclaimed that people of all castes have the right to salvation through the bhakti tradition. He sought to eradicate caste distinctions and attempted to create an egalitarian society by stressing the notion that a bhakt was neither a Brahmin nor an untouchable, but just a bhakt, a devotee. On this note, let us all look forward to 3 days of debate and deliberation on Kabir consciousness. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, Aditya. The only trait which sets humans apart from every other animal is our enhanced ability to communicate, our ability to work together as a team. And that ability must grow if mankind is to survive the difficult times that are to come.
This event is meant to help enhance that ability by teaching us not only to be better thinkers, but to be better thinkers together. And who better to judge such an event to help guide the participants than Mr. Parnab Mukherjee? Born and brought up in Kolkata, Parnab sir has left his mark on the mighty horizons as a journalist, activist, writer, analyst, as well as theatre director, who has, to his credit, direction of the adapted versions of Shakespeare's plays. For more than a decade, he has been into media and has worked with some of the popular names in the line, like EPB Publications, The Asian Age, and Pratidin, and has served as the editor of the English as well as Bengali dailies.
He has also worked for Sampark, which aims at bridging the gap between northeastern Indian states and the rest of the nation, giving consideration to the non-chartered path called media advocacy. He has also contributed through his works in the various UN projects, as he is also a consultant with the United Nations. Matching with the diverse interests he has and the various fields in which he has worked, he has established himself as a quizzer par excellence. He has much passions for the mind sport as he has for working for the sections which have not received apt shares in the growth as the nation, as an emerging superpower, is enjoying.
We would like to invite the board of directors to felicitate Parnab sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. We request the board of directors to stay back. We are extremely honored to be joined by Mr. Partho Banerjee, one of our esteemed judges in this event, and we would like to invite him to be felicitated by the board of judges.
Thank you so much. Through all of his years of preaching, Kabir was an unequivocal supporter of freedom and joy, the ability to express oneself freely, without inhibitions. And what better way would there ever be to do so than dance? So here, we would like to call upon stage the Sunbeam Bhagwanpur dance team for a choreography titled Rhythms of Peace.
सोच, वाद, विवाद, सबको व्यक्त करते हैं शब्द। और शब्द वो इतने महत्वपूर्ण होते हैं कि पूरा मनुष्य जीवन इन पर निर्भर करता है। शब्द बांधते, शब्द बींधते, शब्द मन को मनु बनाते। और कबीर के शब्द वो तो जीने की राह और जरिया और कौन, सिर्फ गुरु।
गुरु जो ज्ञान सिखा दिया, दिया जीवन का सार। नमन गुरु चरणन में हम करते बारंबार। गुरु गोविंद दो खड़े काके लागू पार। गुरु गोविंद दो खड़े काके लागू पार। बलिहारी गुरु आपने गोविंद दियो बताए कबीरा, गोविंद दियो बता।
सतरिया जीनी रे जीनी, सतरिया जीनी रे जीनी। हे राम नाम रस बीनी, सतरिया जीनी रे जीनी। हे राम नाम रस बीनी, सतरिया जीनी रे जीनी।
जिस मिट्टी ने जन्म दिया उसी मिट्टी में अवसान है। प्रारंभ अगर उत्सव है तो अंत शमशान है। हाथ बंधे तो जन्म है, हाथ खुले तो निष्प्राण है। क्या लेकर आए रे बंदे, क्या लेकर जाओगे।
क्या लेकर आयो रे बंदे, क्या लेकर जाएगा, क्या लेकर जाएगा। 2 दिन की जिंदगी में 2 दिन का मेला। क्या लेकर आयो रे बंदे, क्या लेकर जाएगा, क्या लेकर जाएगा। 2 दिन की जिंदगी में 2 दिन का मेला। इस जगत सराय में मुसाफिर रहना 2 दिन का। इस जगत सराय में मुसाफिर रहना 2 दिन का। तू झूठा करे गुमान रे भैरे धनी और जोबन का। मंद बुद्धि आयो जगत में खाली हाथ जाएगा, खाली हाथ जाएगा। 2 दिन की जिंदगी में 2 दिन का मेला।
शिव की काशी, कबीर की काशी मोक्ष का द्वार है, जहां मृत्यु के द्वार पर खड़ा जीवन की होली खेलता है।
जी में तू, जामे तू, मेरे सारे जहां में तू।
ओ सावत सुहा रंग सबके नसीब दा। खेले दुख सुख आँख में चो।
मेरा मुर्शिद फेरे होरी। यारा रंग है उसका न्यारा, मेरा मुर्शिद फेरे होरी। जी में तू, जामे तू, मेरे सारे जहां में तू। जी में तू, जामे तू, मेरे सारे जहां में तू। संसारा मेरा प्यारा छिड़के अपने कर्म का प्यारा छिड़के अपने कर्म का रंग दे सब संसारा हो इश्क का रंग है न्यारा 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 मेरे सारे जहां मेरे सारे जहां
Thank you. That was a beautiful rendition. Now, we would like to invite Parnab sir on the stage to speak a few words.
Good morning, children, teachers, senior functionaries of Sunbeam, Pratibha ma'am, Sandeep sir, Ashish sir, the participants at large, and of course, everybody interested in a larger understanding of the world. When Sunbeam Bhagwan, the word within, I think it encompasses what you saw on stage through students in terms of Kabir's words. But I think most importantly, as the dance proved, that there's a difference between just celebrating Kabir and celebrating Kabir consciousness, which means an ecosystem around Kabir, which means by default, Sant Ramanand, by default, understanding of Bairagi, by default, Guru Govind Singh and Zafarnama, by default, Kumar Gandharv, by default, the consciousness of Sri Aurobindo, by default, even the understanding that today when we talk about climate change or sustainable development, and somebody asks that, how is Kabir consciousness related to physics? And then when you look at sustainable earth technology, then you understand that's the lens at which you are looking at. Literary festival doesn't mean only literature festival. Literary festival is a lens. If you read a science fiction called Hitchhiker's Guide to Galaxy, it's physics, it's literature. If you understand the literary works written by Acharya Jagadish Chandra Bose, he did write two fantastic works outside his prodigious scientific output. You would know that literature is a lens by which he looked at science, or that old adage of Albert Einstein, that how would I do physics if I can't play my violin? So hence comes the question, Kabir consciousness unconference means a huge understanding that a consciousness of Kabir is something we have to fall back to. It's something by default Gandhiji fell back. By default Tagore fell back. Rabindranath Tagore, inspired by Kiti Mohan Sen, who prodded him on. Kiti Mohan Sen has a very famous member of his family, Professor Amartya Sen, prodded Tagore to make one of the first translations of Kabir published anywhere in the world. It's called 100 Poems of Kabir, still available. I think the current publication, the current reprint is by Rupa. So when you look at a man who inspires somebody like Tagore, somebody like Kumar Gandharv, someone profound as Sri Aurobindo, and someone absolutely, fundamentally, at a grassroots level Murtikar, then what bridge are you building? In the course of next few days, as we take part in our events, there is a lot of Kabir consciousness consciously kept, including the film review, which would have a Kabir song in terms of a music video. If that is a spoiler, which song, what video, of course you don't know. So the entire concept of the conference, which means an unconference, stems from the thought of Kabir. Two things before I wrap up, because there's a long day ahead. One, and fundamentally, debate is a major part of Kabir's wisdom. What we took a detour in the debate is there can't be a clear cut for the motion and a clear cut against the motion. At a point of time when debates have become for the motion and against the motion, how much are you for the gray area is something that Kabir tests in our personal philosophical paradigm, and we test in terms of a competition or more an unconference. The idea of a literary and entertainment quiz is that literature is not just literature available in front of us, a lot of literature to be discovered. When James Prinsep took the boat from now what is called the Prinsep Ghat to then Varanasi, he wouldn't have known he's going to a lifelong adventure of trying to understand a script and probably decode the nuances of Sarnath for us. At some point of time, be it Jonathan Duncan, be it Alexander Cunningham, be it James Prinsep, on the other hand, Thakur Jaidev Singh, Gopinath Kobiraj, Bimal Krishna Motilal, and at that point of time, even a historic atheist like Bhagwan Das, Banaras was a galaxy of people trying to say whether you believe or if you don't believe, you believe in the fact that there is a literature hidden even in the most mundane. Simple matter. Walk from the ghat, from a consciousness of an Assi to a sports ghat of a akhara like Babua Pandey, to a Mir ghat that talks about a governor who fought for an uniformity and you just can't pay random taxes to the British. Two, a weaving textile tradition of Scindia and Bhosle. Two, a different kind of consciousness in knowing history in Rajendra Prasad. Ancient underpinnings of Banaras, which would start around the forest and jungle area, which has now been sanitized and called Rajghat. The great Adikeshav temple, to the memories of Rituparna Ghosh shooting Chokher Bali, to a Satyajit Ray shooting Aparajito much before his Feluda adventure. The Banaras Ghats would mean that there is a literature to be discovered everywhere, not only inside a book. And that is the literature that talks about Inter-School Literary Festival, which is a lens at which you look at. If you want to call the lens science fiction, beautiful. If you want to call the lens philosophical fiction, fantastic. If you call the lens essentially biology or physics or chemistry, that's fantastic. That doesn't go against the fact it's a literary festival. In fact, it enhances it. If you want to call it climate change, that's fantastic. If you want to call it sustainable development that binds it all, that is the consciousness of Kabir. To start with and to end with, my second and the final point is a little bit about Kumar Gandharvji. Most of Kumar Gandharvji's Kabir happened at a very interesting time in his life. He developed a huge lung problem to the point that he would have had a finite number of years left before he passes away. So doctor decided that he needs a climb which is sultry, at the same point of time, not sultry enough. So the family decides to go to a place called Devas, which is now almost the twin city of Indore. In Devas, they settle in a place. Kumarji beautifully calls the home Bhanukul, which still remains exactly as it is, as Kumarji stayed at that point of time. Of course, the surrounding areas have changed with urbanization and time. At that point of time, for almost 4 years, Kumarji could not sing even a single note. One note of song, because there was a tremendous pressure on the lung and almost only one portion of it was functioning, even for a note to come out. For Pandit Kumar Gandharv, that was traumatic. traumatic not to sing for a crowd, not to sing for himself. So one day Kumarji sits and there's a creeper of a tree near the grill. It's still an extended call if you go now, Bhanukul if you go now. I was there a couple of months back, once more paying pilgrimage to the place just to sit there. There's a creeper of a tree and a bird sits on the creeper of a tree. That small, frail bird that sat on a creeper of a tree initially sang a note that Kumarji thought was almost a lullaby-like quality. The bird almost came every day and gave out different kind of chirping. Kumarji kept looking at the bird. How do I know all this? Because he wrote about it and spoke about it. So Kumarji keeps looking at the bird and finds that the physiology, the biological structure of the bird is not enough to go full throttle ever. It doesn't really have a well-defined heart chamber or a lung structure or a pharynx and a larynx or an islet of Langerhans that would actually make the sound really projected and go deep down. How does the bird sing? It contracts its capability and then expands the voice to sing the best way it can. Kumarji decided to slower the pace down. He lowered his gaiki in such a way that the songs were sung at almost 1/4 or half the pace at which he used to sing before. But while doing that, he would understand the gamak in a different way. And at that point of time, Kabir revealed to him on his regular visits to buy milk, to move around Devas, to talk to farmers. All of a sudden, Kabir came back to him in that half a lung capacity and reinventing Kabir, half musical, half conversational. You don't know how much is which. So when you go back to hearing the rendition of Kumarji singing a song beautifully interpreted by children in their own collective ethos, Ur Jayega Hans Akela, Jagdarshan Ka Mela. When you hear Kumarji singing, you will hear it again in the film review tomorrow. So you will have a reference point of what I am speaking today. So when you hear Kumarji singing, close your eyes. Of course, you are transported to a world of Kabir. Gandhiji had famously remarked that he hadn't heard Kabir, but he had heard Kumarji. So, but also remember, here is a man medically fighting a battle with a lung, knowing that his ears are finite, trying to contract his lung to a capacity that he has to sing for some time, leave a mark. At the same point of time, you just can't implode because you have some years to give to the world. And wow, what he gave. So today when we look at Kumar Gandharv, I don't look at him just as a musician. I don't look at him as a philosopher. I also look at him somebody who fought a battle with the biology of his body and said that a musician also understands a scientific temper in a different way. It's like kids, when kids ask me that, sir, X is a sportsman and Y is very good in physics and math. I tell him a simple question. It's very simple, fundamental. Prakash Padukone or Pulela Gopichand or PV Sindhu or Saina Nehwal. One day they are playing in Mexico. Second day they're playing in Thailand. Third day they are playing in probably an open air court. Fourth day they are playing in Guwahati. Each altitude changes. Each shuttlecock changes. The behavior of the shuttle is not the same. Now, do they have to be a physics topper? Because in their own way they understand physics. How do they not understand physics if they can understand the behavior of a shuttle according to the court? That is consciousness of physics. The physics of a board exam or the physics of essentially a competitive exam is physics as it is, not physics as a consciousness, which is why we don't discuss much Harishchandra Mathur Institute in Allahabad, where probably in a large campus, 12 important physicists of India, including the great Ashok Sen, is trying to actually change the physics landscape of the world. They are not well known. They don't have to be well known because they are probably the best known in their subject. So this is where the consciousness is. So you have a physics consciousness, you have a literature consciousness, you have a philosophical consciousness, you have a climate change consciousness. Consciousness is a lens. It is not a word. So Kabir consciousness, I think, encompasses, because it talks about something very, very fundamental. Mati kahe kumar ke, which means you have a man molding the clay and a man tilling the earth. If we come back from dust to dust, ashes to ashes, then we have to understand earth. In whichever possibility, in whatever be your lens. Creating that lens is the idea of this festival. Deep thank you to Pratima ma'am for initiating and fundamentally fermenting this idea that this conference should be Kabir and Kabir alone. In that Kabir and Kabir alone, she'd probably opened a larger world for me to ferment, for my co-judges. Thank you, Sahej Umang Singh Bhatia. Thank you, Mr. Abhishek Pal. Thank you, Partho Banerjee, a younger student between Sahej, Abhishek, Partho. Thank you so much, Sheikh Safwan. All the four of you will be joining at different point of time in different Zoom links. Kids will be interacting. Some will be correcting the paper. Some will be giving feedback. But in our eco circle, for us trying to grapple with Kabir, coming up with a PDF document in trying to say that how much of the event can be child friendly, at the same point of time, not diluting Kabir, not making him a dumbed down version of just Bhakti and Sufi. He's much more than that. He's dialectical, he's philosophical, he's probably life itself. So for getting that started in that journey, Sunbeam Bhagwanpur, Pratibha ma'am, all the students, teachers, and most importantly, the important cogs in the wheel, the students of the school and the students taking part, and the invisible bridge between the two. Once we finish the conference, I can see a bridge. And the bridge makes it an unconference, because you take the conference back, unpack yourself, put your physics, put your chemistry, put your math, and put your English, and put a little Kabir in it. When you put a little Kabir in it, the dish is always delicious and never ending. Thank you so much. Jai Hind, and a deep thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. There are certain things in which mediocrity is not to be endured, such as poetry, music, painting, or public speaking. Nobody is born talented. Nobody is born a public speaker, a poet. No, they acquire these talents over multiple years with days upon days of practice. And in this journey, they need mentors to help guide them, to give them opportunities.
On this note, we would like to invite Ms. Pratima Gupta, the Assistant Director of the Sunbeam Group, to address the gathering. Over to you, ma'am.
Good morning, Jai Hind, everyone. Well, where do I begin, honestly? After listening to what Mr. Mukherjee had to say about Kabir, about the entire process of curating the conference, I am somehow already embarking on a journey deep within myself. Behind me, I see two iconoclasts, Kabir, the saint, and Kumar Gandharva, the singer. And strangely enough, I stand at the focal point in Kashi of two streams of consciousness, which are deeply, deeply personally connected to me, my own self. Because growing up in a Maharashtrian household, Kumarji's voice was not something which I got introduced to. It was a part of the sounds that encompassed my entirety in my childhood growing up years. We perhaps woke up to the strains of his music wafting through our rooms. And there were evenings when we were actually introduced to the nuances of his voice, of his singing, and to various other aspects of classical musical renditions by my parents, who were very, very into Kumarji's music and other forms of classical music also. a part of your consciousness registered that as something important. And again, having Indore and Devas close to Indore as the Janmabhoomi from where I come, look how life pans out. So from Kumar Gandharv, years later, because YouTube came up, because one could retrieve music at a button on the keypad, I listened to Nirbhay Nirgun on YouTube. It was an echo of childhood, which I tried to capture, sitting in Kashi. So from Janmabhoomi to my Karmabhoomi, Kashi. One a singer, the other a saint. And this beautiful confluence of two thought processes. Both of them were unconventional. Both of them broke free of the rigidity of the norms around them. Kabir, by defying social, religious, conventional thought in approaching divinity. Kumarji, by constructing his own ragas, his own bandish, his own inimitable style of rendition. When we look back upon these two people, we feel today that the word unconferenced does justice to their streams of thought, because we need to break free. We really need to understand that which is real, that which is tangible, that which seems an absolute, still has a deeper meaning behind it. That we practice as normative behavior, that we adhere to as a social convention, as a religious ritual. Is it connected to the freedom of the human spirit? And I suppose at that juncture, the power of word comes to our mind. Because how do we communicate this breach of convention? How do we express that the path that we choose to tread upon now, as perhaps denizens of a planet which teeters on the brink of self-annihilation, what can bring it back to sense? What can refine sensibilities? Words, of course. And I firmly believe wars begin where conversation ends. Battles are fought when the minds and the hearts refuse to connect. Who better to understand the power of the words of Kabir than the youth of today, who even now are defying conventions in their own thinking and believing? We reach out by the medium of 32 schools and 75 participants into the minds and hearts of the world's community at large. Listen to the words, feel the power, and understand that if we have to embrace Kabir, and if we have to not only listen to him as a person who talked something different, if we have to believe him, if we have to bring him into our very own being and existence, then his words are not mere words. They have the power to heal. They have the power to rejuvenate. Above all, they have the power to anchor us to our senses and our sensibilities. And above all, reason. Let's give the power of words more power as we debate, as we deliberate, and consciously choose to weave a canvas upon which the future will be painted in brighter colors, because the youth believes in making a better tomorrow. My heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Padam Mukherjee for being with us unconditionally through the curating of all the nuances of the unconference. Heartfelt gratitude, of course, to Sunbeam Sun City, in particular, Mr. Ashish Rai, for being the bridge between our thoughts, Parnab's wonderful creativity, and of course, making this unconference possible. To my team at Sunbeam Bhagwanpur and at Sunbeam Sun City, to, of course, my brilliant anchors, and most importantly, to the principals of the 32 schools, and to all these participants who felt that here was something meaningful in which they have to register their presence. We are not here to win trophies. We are here to win hearts, and we are here to influence minds with the power of Shabda. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Not only for that amazing speech, but for mentoring so many students so many years.
Winning and losing are a part and parcel of life. Whatever comes up has to go down at least once, and the inverse is true all the same. But through Shabd, we seek to learn, embrace, and perhaps most importantly, enjoy.
We seek not to come out on top, but to come out as the best possible versions of ourselves that we can curate at this time. We wish all participants the very best. May you learn, grow, and shine.
Thank you and Jai Hind.